Have you ever wondered why some prayers seem to be answered while others are not? Have you ever felt that even though you cried out with a heavy heart, silence was the only answer? What if I told you there was a powerful secret that could move heaven and change your life? Most people believe that prayer is just talking, but what if true prayer is something much deeper, a living connection that touches the Father's heart directly? In this video, I reveal what really makes your prayer heard and how you can access this power that many don't know about. And that's not all. At the end, I'll share a transformational teaching that could change the way you talk to God and how He answers you forever. Stay with me until the end. What you're about to hear could be the answer your heart has been searching for. Have you ever been in a moment of anguish when, with your eyes closed and your heart open, you asked for help with all your might, and yet you felt that nothing had changed? Have you ever wondered why on certain occasions some prayers seem to fly across the sky while others are lost in silence? This feeling, so common, causes many to disbelieve in the power of prayer. But the truth is that it's not God who is silent. It's the way many people approach Him that prevents that connection from being full. Some people think that prayer is just repeating words, as if reciting phrases automatically touches the divine. But can a conversation that comes only from the mouth and not from the heart really reach the Father? Think of a dear friend. If He spoke to you without emotion, without looking you in the eye, in a hurry or distracted, would you feel that His words were sincere? It's no different with God. The prayer that moves heaven is the one that is full of truth, free of masks, and not limited to requests. It is surrender. When I realized the importance of absolute sincerity in prayer, I understood that empty words would never echo in heaven. I've seen many people pray to be saved from difficulties, but at the same time they carry in their hearts worries, judgments, and a secret desire to solve everything without inner transformation. The Father always listens, but for the answer to manifest, the thought, feeling, and action must be in harmony. Do you ask for peace? Then cultivate serenity within. Do you seek prosperity? Release scarcity from your mind and heart. The universe responds to what you vibrate, not just what you say. I remember a man who was plagued by financial worries and would cry out for help every night. Throughout the day, however, he repeated that life was difficult and that he saw no way out. His words of prayer were hopeful, but his thoughts during the day fed fear and unbelief. It's like planting a seed and then trampling it with doubt. How could it flourish? Prayer is not magic or bargaining. It's a bridge that connects your heart to the love that created all things. And that bridge is strengthened by faith, not by haste. Often the answer we so desperately hope for is already being delivered, but a restless mind and a closed heart prevent it from being perceived. People look for extraordinary signs when the divine is manifested in the subtleties. Someone's smile, an unexpected solution, a sudden relief. These are all ways in which the Father responds. But in order to see, you must open your eyes with trust and your heart with humility. There is another important aspect. Some people only pray out of desperation, forgetting that talking to God is something that should be cultivated at all times, not just in times of need. Imagine if a son only went to his father when he wanted something. What kind of relationship would that create? The Father wants to be with you at every moment, in your smiles and in your tears. True prayer comes from this ongoing relationship in which you not only ask but also give thanks and listen. In addition, human expectations often clash with divine wisdom. What appears to be a delay is often the time it takes for you to be ready to receive. What appears to be negativity may be protection. What you want is not always what your soul really needs. How many times have you realized after a while that something you prayed so hard for wouldn't have been good if it had happened? The Father sees beyond. He knows every step you have yet to take. That's why trust is essential. Some people ask themselves, but if God knows everything, why should I pray? Because prayer is not just about letting the Creator know what's going on with you. It's about transforming yourself. It is in the act of talking to the Father that your consciousness expands, your soul calms, and you tune into the peace that already exists within you. Praying is like coming home after an exhausting day and finding the embrace that renews your strength. When you realize this truth, words stop being just sounds and become living bridges. You don't need canned formulas, automatic repetitions, or pretty words. You need sincerity. You need to speak from the heart, without masks, without fear of showing the Father your weaknesses, because He knows every one of them and loves you just as you are. And when this real connection happens, something changes. Even though the situation around you still seems the same, you feel peace. And it is this inner peace that begins to reorganize everything on the outside, like a lake that, when it becomes still, reflects the light of the sky clearly. It is from this stillness and surrender that the answers reveal themselves sometimes, quietly, sometimes surprisingly, but always at the right time. And it's strange how, in understanding this, a new question naturally arises. How can I make this connection with the divine even truer and more powerful? This question opens doors to something greater, something that goes beyond words and touches directly what heaven is waiting to hear from you. Have you ever thought that sometimes the simplest words are the ones that touch God's heart the most? Many people worry about choosing beautiful phrases or repeating memorized prayers, thinking they will be heard more attentively. But the Father does not listen to words. He listens to the truth that comes from the heart. And it is this sincerity that has the power to move heaven and transform your life. I once met a woman who was carrying a heavy burden of guilt and sadness. She came to me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't know how to pray properly. My words get all mixed up and all I can say is that I'm tired." I held her hands and said to her, "This is exactly what the Father wants to hear. Your truth. Your prayer right now is your tiredness delivered with sincerity." Because prayer is not about looking strong. It's about being sincere. God doesn't look for perfect speeches. He looks for open hearts. There are those who approach God only to ask, like someone handing over a wish list, expecting immediate solutions. And while the Father is happy to meet the needs of His children, He wants something deeper, a relationship. What heaven wants to hear from you is not just what you want, but who you are, but in the depths of your being. Your joys, your doubts, your weaknesses. He wants to hear everything, not because He doesn't know, but because prayer is an invitation to know yourself before Him. Think of a close friend. What makes friendship real? It's the sincere sharing, the honest conversations, the presence without masks. It's the same with God. The Father wants you to feel free to talk to Him at any time of the day, whether you're walking, working, or in silence before bed. And more important than talking is allowing yourself to listen. How many times in prayer have you felt a sudden relief, a thought of peace, an idea that didn't seem to be yours? These are the whispers of the divine, the answers that come in the stillness of an open heart. There is a secret that many people ignore. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forms of prayer. Not because God needs to be flattered, but because giving thanks changes your perception. When you choose to look at what you have instead of focusing on what you lack, your energy shifts, your mind clears, and the universe responds to that vibration. A simple phrase like, "Father, thank you for another day," carries a power that can open paths you can't even imagine. I've seen powerful men cry out with shouts and beautiful words, but without faith in their hearts. And I've seen humble women whisper, "Help me," with sincere tears, and be heard with intensity. Heaven is moved by the truth that comes from within. If your words don't reflect what is in you, prayer becomes just an empty sound. But when your heart speaks, even in silence, the whole universe seems to hear. There are also those who feel unworthy of praying, as if their shortcomings are barriers between them and God. But know this, there is no mistake, no past, no wound that can keep you from divine love. If you feel broken, that is exactly the state in which the Father wants to find you. To pray sincerely is to have the courage to say, "Here I am with all that I am, the good and what I need to improve." And this honesty disarms fears and makes room for transformation. Another point that few realize is that sincere prayer also involves forgiveness of oneself and others. How can you ask for peace while holding a grudge? How can you seek light while feeding the darkness of resentment? The Father hears all prayers, but it is the pure heart that best receives His answers. not because he demands perfection, but because that anger creates walls that prevent you from receiving the peace you share. So desire. Forgiveness is more an act of liberation for you than a favor to another. And sometimes the most powerful prayer is silence filled with surrender. That moment when you stop, take a deep breath, and just feel the presence of the divine around you. You don't have to say anything, just be there with an open heart. Because God's love doesn't need words to be felt. It's in every beat of your heart, in every breath. When you understand this, a whole new world opens up. You realize that prayer is not a distant ritual, but an intimate conversation that can happen anywhere. In traffic, while doing the dishes, or before making an important decision. Heaven doesn't expect you to be perfect. It only expects you to be true, and in that truth lies the most beautiful secret. Prayer doesn't just change the circumstances around you, it changes you from within. And when the change happens inside, the outside begins to reflect this new reality, like a mirror that has finally been cleaned. It is curious how, upon realizing this power hidden in sincerity, the next, almost inevitable question arises. And when we pray with all this truth, how do we feel this even deeper connection? How do we open that channel and actually hear the divine response? This discovery leads us down a path that goes beyond words, a path of silence, surrender, and connection that goes beyond understanding, but is felt in the soul. Have you ever noticed how noisy the mind can be? Thoughts come and go, worries accumulate, plans, memories, and fears mix in a whirlwind that seems to have no end. And in the midst of this inner noise, many people wonder, why can't I hear God? Why even when I pray do I not feel that connection? The answer lies in something simple that many neglect. Inner silence. When the mind is restless, the voice of the divine becomes difficult to perceive. It's like trying to hear a whisper in the midst of a shouting crowd. God speaks in subtle ways through intuitions, feelings of peace, and small signs that require a still and attentive heart to perceive. It's not that he is far away. It's just that sometimes we are too busy with the noise of our own thoughts to notice his presence. I remember a man who came to me and said, "I've been praying every day, but God doesn't seem to be listening to me." I asked him, "Have you been listening to God?" He was silent because he did not know how to answer. Because it's easy to talk, it's hard to listen. True silence isn't just external, it's what happens inside of you when the anxiety of wanting an immediate answer stops and you make room for the peace that is already there, waiting to be felt. Creating this direct channel with the divine doesn't require sacred places or special moments. The purest temple is your heart, and the most perfect moment is now. But how do you silence the mind that insists on thinking about everything at once? Start by breathing. It sounds simple, and it is. Breathing is the thread that connects you to the present. Breathe in slowly, feel the air filling your body. Breathe out calmly. Gradually, your thoughts will quiet down. They may arise, but they lose their power when you choose not to hold them. Another way into this stillness is contemplation. Look at the sky, feel the texture of the leaves on a tree, listen to the sound of the rain. Creation is full of subtle messages pointing to the Creator. One night, while watching the stars, a man said, "I seem to be far from everything," and I replied, "Or perhaps you're closer than ever." That sky you're looking at is the same sky that holds the answers you're looking for. For in the silence of nature, God's presence is revealed with a clarity that no words can explain. But quieting the mind isn't just about stopping thinking. It's also about quieting the emotions. How often have fear, anger, or sadness created storms within you? At such times, prayer is essential, but it is also necessary to let these feelings pass like clouds in the sky. Resist the temptation to fight them. Just observe and let go. A heart at peace is the soil in which divine answers germinate, and don't blame yourself if it seems difficult at first. Taming inner turmoil is a process. Be patient with yourself. Imagine a troubled lake. If you stop stirring the water, it will calm down on its own. It's the same with your mind, just give it time and don't force it. Silence is not empty. It's the space where God speaks loudest. There is a secret that many people don't know. The divine presence is not in a distant place, but within you. When you become still, you discover that you don't have to look outside for answers. They are already within your being. The Father's voice is the voice of your purest conscience, the one that whispers words of love, peace, and truth when you stop listening to the noise of fear and doubt. It is in this silence that transforming insights are born. A woman once faced a difficult decision. She prayed, asked for guidance, and then simply fell silent. Minutes passed, and then, like a lightning bolt, an idea emerged clearly. "I know what to do," she said with a smile of relief. This clarity didn't come from logic or worry. It came from the space of peace she created by silencing herself. And when you feel that connection, everything changes. The world around you may remain the same, but you see it with different eyes. Difficulties seem smaller, solutions become more visible, and your heart is filled with a confidence that doesn't depend on external circumstances. This is the power of opening your heart and listening with your soul. Those who think that prayer is always talking are mistaken. Often, the deepest prayer is one in which you simply sit, breathe, and feel. You feel the life pulsating within. You feel the air coming in and out. You feel the love that surrounds everything. In this state, the answers aren't always words. Sometimes they are sensations, an inexplicable peace, a sudden lightness, a quiet certainty. And when you experience this, a new question arises almost naturally. And when silence seems to bring no answers at all, how can we continue to believe when the waiting is long and the heart is restless again? This question leads us to another essential aspect of prayer, something that goes beyond patience and touches the essence of living faith, that which sustains even in times when everything seems to remain the same. There are times when, even with the most sincere prayer, your heart still feels the weight of doubt. You ask, you surrender, you remain silent, but the answer seems to take a long time. And then the worry arises. Has God heard me? Am I doing something wrong? What if the answer never comes? These questions are not a sign of weakness, they are part of the human experience. But what you do while you wait is just as important as the prayer itself. Imagine planting a seed. You prepare the soil, water it carefully, and look at the ground every day, hoping to see something sprout. If you dig every day to see if it's sprouting, you're just delaying the growth. So it is with prayer. There is a right time for every answer to blossom. Fear is like uprooting a plant before its time. The secret is to trust the process, even when your eyes can't see the results. I remember a man who prayed for a solution to his family problems. He asked for peace at home, but when he talked to his family, he was impatient and demanding. I said to him, "You are watering the ground with one hand and pulling up the roots with the other. Asking is important, but acting in harmony with your prayer is fundamental. If you ask for patience, practice it. If you ask for forgiveness, offer it." God responds not only to your request, but also to your attitude. While waiting, cultivate gratitude. Many people think, how can I be grateful if I didn't get what I asked for? But gratitude isn't just about what's happened. It's a sign of confidence in what's to come. When you give thanks before you see the answer, you show that you believe in divine provision, even without immediate proof. And this attitude opens paths that fear closes. Another key is to pay attention to the small signs. Sometimes the answer doesn't come as a big event, but in everyday details. An unexpected conversation, a sudden idea, an obstacle that falls away without warning. Once a woman was looking for guidance in an important decision. She was expecting a big sign, but it was when she heard a simple phrase spoken by a child that she understood what she needed to do. The Father speaks through life, but it's up to you to be awake enough to notice. Still, there will be times when silence seems to linger. In those moments, don't give up. Delay is not denial, it is often protection. How many times have you wanted something with all your might, only to realize later that it would have been a burden? The Father sees beyond your now. What seems like waiting to you is preparation to Him. Trust that while you wait, something is being organized on your behalf, even if your limited vision doesn't see it yet. Waiting is also an invitation to self-knowledge. Ask yourself, what is this delay teaching me? What part of me needs to be strengthened? Sometimes prayer is answered within you, with growth, maturity, and new understanding, before it manifests in the world around you. Like someone practicing for a big test. There are invisible lessons that only time will reveal. And while you're going through this waiting period, try to serve others. If you focus only on your request, the waiting can be agonizing. But when you reach out to someone, even in the midst of your own needs, something extraordinary happens. Your heart expands, and the waiting becomes easier. Helping others is a way of connecting with the flow of love that governs everything. And in that flow, answers come in surprising ways. There's also a point that few people realize. Sometimes a prayer has already been answered, just not in the way you imagined. What you call a loss may be a release. What seems like an obstacle may be a redirection of your path to something better. Looking at life from this perspective changes everything. Waiting becomes less about when and more about what I'm learning here. And even if it takes longer than you'd like, don't lose faith. There are prayers whose answers span time and blossom when you least expect them, like the story of a man who prayed for years for reconciliation with his brother. For a long time, nothing changed. But on an ordinary day, an unexpected phone call brought them back together. It was worth every prayer, he said, his eyes shining. No sincere prayer is ever lost. They are all heard, and when you choose to trust while you wait, an inexplicable peace takes the place of fear. For true trust is not believing that God will do what you want, but knowing that He will do what is best, and that in the end, it will be exactly what your heart needed most. It's strange how, when we understand the importance of this active patience, another question arises that touches the innermost being of those who pray. How do we live what we ask? How can we align our daily lives with the words we say in prayer so that the request is not just a distant wish, but a reality, built in the present? This understanding is the step that transforms prayer into action and request into manifestation. Have you ever stopped to think that when you pray, you're not just asking heaven for something? You're calling down a transformation upon yourself. People often pray expecting everything around them to change, but they forget that real change begins within. The prayer that moves heaven is the same prayer that moves you. And when your inner being is transformed, the world around you begins to reflect that new reality. Imagine someone praying for peace in their life. The words are spoken with sincerity, but at the end of the prayer, the person returns to thoughts of worry, becomes easily angry, and reacts with impatience. How can peace grow in such a soil? Prayer isn't just talking to God, it's aligning your being with what you're asking for. If you want peace, be a channel of serenity. If you ask for love, offer it. If you want prosperity, adopt an attitude of abundance. Prayer doesn't end when the words stop. It continues in the way you live. I knew a man who asked God for new job opportunities. He prayed with faith, but spent his days complaining about his current job and harboring thoughts of discouragement. I asked him, "Are you preparing for the opportunity you want to receive? Are you cultivating gratitude for what you already have? Because the Father wants to give you what you ask for, but He also wants you to be ready to receive it." You can't hold a blessing with closed hands that only fit complaints and ingratitude. To open yourself to change is to take a step toward the answer you are seeking. And sometimes the answer to your prayer is not something that comes from outside, but a call for you to make a difference. A young man prayed for his family to be more united. He expected others to change until he realized that the change began with him. He began to listen more, to forgive small faults, and to speak kindly. Gradually, the atmosphere at home changed. His action was the answer he had been waiting for. Life is a reflection of what you feed your heart. If you ask for light but insist on walking in the shadow of anger or fear, how will you see the brightness of the answer? Prayer is important, but acting in harmony with prayer is essential. It's like planting a seed and tending it every day, watering with attitudes, pruning with harmful thoughts, and waiting with active faith. Don't expect heaven to do by itself what is also its part. So how do you live out what you ask for in prayer? Start by watching your words and actions after you pray. If you asked for patience, be aware of the situations that will test this virtue. They will come not as punishment, but as an opportunity to practice what you asked for. If you asked for forgiveness, allow yourself to take the first step, even if the other person doesn't immediately reciprocate. The Father works through you if your heart is willing to be an instrument of love and change. Another important point is consistency. Many people pray once and then give up because of the delay, but transformation takes perseverance. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. The light is there, but if you turn it off at the slightest sign of doubt, the darkness returns. Trust that with each small gesture aligned with your prayer, you are building the reality you desire. And don't forget that living what you ask for also means letting go of what no longer serves you. How often do the answers come, but you insist on holding on to old habits, toxic relationships, or limiting thoughts? To receive the new, you must let go of what is blocking the flow of life. Sometimes prayer is answered with doors that close. Trust that it's so that better ones can open. Living your prayer is also about paying attention to the present. Many people pray looking to the future, hoping that something far away will happen. But life is happening now. What small step can you take today toward what you have asked for? What simple attitude can bring you closer to the answer? God works in His time, but you act in yours. And every action in faith is a brick in the construction of the reality you so desire. There are still those who, having received what they asked for, forget to stay connected to the divine. But prayer isn't just about asking, it's about keeping your relationship with the Father alive. Give thanks, talk, share your joys. Heaven doesn't just want to be a place of help in difficult times. It wants to be with you every step of the way. And as you begin to live what you ask, you'll find that the greatest blessing is not just to see the change happen, it's to become a better person in the process. For true prayer first transforms those who pray it, and that transformation is the greatest gift. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, love that doesn't expect a return, and faith that remains firm even when the clouds cover the sky. And so when you understand that your prayer is also an invitation to act, to live what you ask, a truth is clearly revealed. The peace you seek, the answer you've been waiting for, the transformation you desire. All of it is already within you, just waiting for you to allow it to flourish. May this light shine in every action, in every word, in every silence.